isn't just another year on the calendar. It's the inflection point where artificial intelligence stops being a fascinating technology and becomes the fundamental infrastructure of civilization. And here's what makes this moment different from every previous technological revolution. The changes won't arrive gradually. They'll cascade, each breakthrough accelerating the next until the world at the end of 2026 looks fundamentally different from the one we're living in right now. We're not talking about incremental improvements to existing systems, we're talking about the emergence of entirely new categories of intelligence, automation, and human-machine collaboration that will reshape industries, redefine employment, and challenge our understanding of what it means to be productive, creative, and even human. The scary part isn't one single breakthrough. It's dozens of changes stacking on top of each other until regular people wake up one day and realize the internet feels different, jobs feel different, and even trust feels different. So buckle up. Because what you're about to hear isn't science fiction. These are predictions based on technologies that already exist, market forces already in motion, and incentives already driving behavior. The only question is whether you'll be ready when they arrive. Category 1. The infrastructure shifts, very likely. Prediction 1. The compute crisis intensifies. Let's start with the least dramatic prediction and the engine behind everything else. Demand for AI computing power will keep accelerating through 2026, and the gap between demand and supply will create genuine economic constraints. Every company right now is trying to turn AI from a demo into an actual system that runs inside their workflows. That means more API calls, more tokens processed, more inference requests, more agent loops, more try-again cycles, more background automation. Even when models get more efficient, usage grows faster than efficiency improves, because cheaper compute unlocks more use cases. Here's the layer people forget. A lot of next year's compute isn't going toward one perfect answer. It's going toward systems that do multiple steps, check themselves, verify, retry, call tools, run searches, summarize, then run it again. Agent workflows are compute multipliers. So when people say maybe AI spending slows down, it sounds logical on paper. In reality, the demand pressure is structural. Even NVIDIA has talked about being sold out of certain cloud GPU capacity at times. That's not casual demand. That's desperate demand. The companies that secure compute capacity in 2026 will have a strategic advantage over those that don't. This isn't about who has the best algorithms anymore. It's about who has access to the computational infrastructure to actually run them. Prediction 2. AGI talk cools, deployment becomes the obsession. People won't stop believing in AGI. What changes is how often it's the headline. In 2026, the market rewards things that work consistently. Boards don't want philosophy. They want adoption and numbers. They want, does this reduce costs? Does it increase output? Does it reduce risk? You already see the vibe shifting. Big labs still mention long-term futures, but the daily conversation is moving toward enterprise rollouts, agent safety, evaluation frameworks, procurement processes, compliance requirements, and governance structures. The obsession becomes, how do we make these systems stable enough to run 24/7 inside real businesses without creating liability? That shift matters because it changes what gets funded. The winners start to be the people who can ship, integrate, and operate, not just publish research papers. This is the moment AI transitions from impressive technology to critical infrastructure, and infrastructure is boring, reliable, and extremely profitable. Prediction 3. Robots steal the spotlight at major tech conferences. Robots become the main event at major tech conferences in 2026, and the demos get way more convincing. Not because robots suddenly become perfect workers. What's happening is that the brain of the robot gets better at context. A robot doesn't need to be flawless to look like the future. It needs to understand instructions, recover from mistakes, and adapt to a new object or environment without needing months of training. That's what the current generation of foundation model robotics is chasing. Less training, more generalization. As Elon Musk recently stated, there are no useful humanoid robots at this point. There are sort of gimmicks, but Tesla's going to make the first actually useful humanoid robots. This will be quite a revolution, something that everyone will want. Who wouldn't want their own personal C-3PO or R2-D2? Everyone would want one. And he's not alone. The CEO of Xpeng, China's version of Tesla announced plans to start mass production preparation for both hardware and software in April 2026. They expect their Iron model to be the smartest humanoid robot because of the use of 3 combined large language models. Once the public sees robots doing tasks that look like normal home or warehouse situations, it hits differently. A robot putting something into an appliance it's never seen before, opening a messy fridge, handling unpredictable objects, responding to voice requests. Even if it's a demo, it makes people connect the dots. And demos are enough to shift capital. They drive partnerships. They drive procurement pilots. They drive we need to be early panic inside corporations. That's why 2026 is going to feel like robot demos everywhere, even if mass deployment takes longer. Prediction 4. The agent economy emerges. 3 critical infrastructure pieces must mature for AI agents to work at scale. First, memory systems. There will be other ways of thinking about memory that haven't even been brought mainstream yet. That's going to be one of the 3 most important things for getting AI agents to work. Agents need to remember context across sessions, learn from past interactions, and build up knowledge over time, just like human employees do. Second, communication protocols. In order to have agents work together, they have to be able to talk together. AI agents are going to have something similar to how humans communicate. This reminds many of the early internet where TCP/IP wasn't the finish line, it was the starting gun. MAC-P Dell Contrix protocol and similar standards are the foundation, not the endpoint. Third, AI security. Now that you have agents that have memories and are communicating with each other, we're going to have to figure out ways that they communicate very securely. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA pointed out, think about agents as not needing to have the same requirements of the physical world. In the future, maybe you're going to have 1,000 security agents around one cognitive intelligence agent. These 3 areas, memory, communication, security, are all being solved in real time and are going to yield the agent economy. Just like we have an economy for humans, we're going to have an economy for agents. There's going to be some sort of niche market built up around new frameworks, new training types, just to support this economy. Prediction 5. AI addresses labor in unprecedented ways. As President Trump recently stated, we're going to need the help of robots and other forms of employment. We're going to be employing a lot of artificial things. We're going to have tremendous workforce availability. We're also going to have robots helping us. We're building a lot between the AI and the auto plants. So we're going to need robots. We're going to have robots, but that's going to help us. We're going to have tremendous workforce, and in order to operate, you're always going to need people. You can have robots, but you're going to have to get somebody to start those robots, and you're going to have to improve the robots. But we're going to have robotic factories plus manpower. This represents a fundamental shift in thinking about labor economics. AI addresses the segment of the economy that it has never addressed before. Having AI that augments labor is going to help us grow. The moment we have intelligence that's worthy of being paid for, and as soon as that flywheel goes, then everything else will take care of itself. This is no different than the moment that humanoid robotics starts to do productive things and people are willing to pay for it and it's a profitable endeavor, then you could scale up as long as you want to scale up. That's really the moment we're looking for, that virtuous cycle where AI starts to generate productive tokens, profitable tokens. After that, the flywheel takes off. Category 2. The disruptive shifts, likely, but S. Prediction 6. Workplace surveillance becomes training data. Companies start recording how work actually happens at scale to train AI agents, and we get a serious backlash. This is one of those trends that will be sold as productivity but lives in the same territory as surveillance. For years, companies already used monitoring tools. What changes now is the motivation. It's not about catching lazy workers anymore. It's about capturing the step-by-step patterns of real work so an AI can replicate it. The infrastructure for that is already here. There's literally an entire category of workplace monitoring software, people call it bossware, that collects clicks, app usage, typing patterns, screen activity, productivity metrics, and more. Reports in 2025 warned that these systems are getting more automated and continuous, especially with AI analyzing the data in real time. In 2026, the tension gets louder. Workers start realizing that training the agent can also mean training the replacement. And companies start realizing they can't keep doing this quietly without legal and reputational consequences. Prediction 7. The privacy breach that changes everything. Always listening AI tools trigger major privacy lawsuits or a big breach that becomes a cultural moment. This one is almost inevitable because the incentives are too strong. AI note takers and meeting assistants are insanely useful. People use them because nobody wants to write notes, nobody wants to miss details, and everyone's drowning in calls. The problem is consent and leakage. A lot of these tools can run without everyone knowing. Even if the official policy says get consent, the real world doesn't behave like policy documents. Then add one breach, or one workplace conflict, or one legal discovery process where recordings show up, and now this becomes a mainstream news story. The bigger point is that it forces a new etiquette. People start assuming they're being recorded by default. That changes how people talk, how people negotiate, and how people trust. Prediction 8. Major AI lab leadership transitions. Sam Altman steps aside as CEO of OpenAI in a controlled transition. Not as a scandal, not a dramatic firing, a planned shift. It's the classic pattern: founder-style leader builds the story and the ambition. Then a different type of operator takes over when the company moves into the adult phase. With AI labs, that phase includes massive infrastructure, partnerships, regulation pressure, enterprise demands, and board-level scrutiny. It becomes less about charisma and more about execution. If this happens in 2026, it won't feel like a collapse, more like OpenAI trying to become a more disciplined machine. Similarly, Anthropic goes public in 2026 while OpenAI stays private longer. Once a major AI lab enters public markets, it changes the standards. Public investors demand clarity, revenue, margins, depreciation schedules, cost structure. Private markets let you stay more opaque. That's why this split makes sense. One company chooses the IPO discipline route, the other delays because it can still raise massive capital privately and keep flexibility. Prediction 9. China's AI chip ecosystem gains ground. China's domestic AI chip ecosystem makes visible progress that starts eroding NVIDIA's dominance long-term. To be clear, this doesn't mean China suddenly matches NVIDIA on the frontier. That's not realistic next year. What it does mean is that good enough domestic chips improve, and the ecosystem around them improves. Software compatibility, tooling, compiler stacks, deployment pathways, supply stability. Once that trajectory becomes obvious, it changes global strategy. Companies plan for diversification. Governments plan for industrial policy. NVIDIA still wins on the frontier, but the world starts preparing for a future where NVIDIA isn't the only center of gravity. Prediction 10. Big Pharma acquires AI protein design. A major pharma company buys a leading AI protein design startup. As Sundar Pichai of Google noted, "I'm blown away by the ability to discover new drugs, completely change how we treat diseases like cancer over time." That's the opportunity. Protein and antibody design has moved from hype into this might actually work. Once Big Pharma believes the platform is strategic, partnerships stop being enough. They want the talent, the pipeline, the IP, the advantage. M&A becomes the fastest way to internalize the capability and block competitors. This is what happens when something shifts from experimental to core. Category 3. The shocking shift's likely, but will feel surreal. Prediction 11. The synthetic identity crisis. A high-profile court case collapses because a key person involved never existed. Not a fake name, a synthetic identity with a full history. Old posts, photos, friends, LinkedIn-style connections, even video calls powered by deepfakes. The world of identity fraud is already getting hammered by generative AI. Reports have warned about deepfake attempts happening constantly, major spikes in document forgery, and synthetic identities becoming more scalable and convincing. Courts already struggle with AI hallucinations in filings and citations. We have real sanctions, real warnings, and growing scrutiny around unverified AI content. The next step is identity. A contract dispute, a business deal, a lawsuit, something where one side is partly built on a synthetic person. It doesn't have to fool everyone forever. It only has to fool the process long enough to do damage. Prediction 12. AI-generated news wins awards. An AI-generated news outlet wins major journalism awards before its origin becomes a scandal. This sounds crazy until you realize the key detail: it can be accurate. AI content doesn't have to be fake to create a legitimacy crisis. You can have real sources, correct facts, solid writing, and still have an outrage moment when people learn that the newsroom was mostly automated. We already have documentation of AI-generated or AI-assisted news sites appearing at scale. Imagine the next evolution: an outlet that does it well. It hires a few human editors, uses AI for drafts, uses real reporting inputs, ships high-quality work fast, wins awards, and only later does the public debate explode. Does authorship matter more than accuracy? That fight is coming. Prediction 13. The viral AI leak. A viral leak predicts real events with terrifying accuracy, and it turns out to be AI. This is the fusion of forecasting and virality. You don't need an insider. You need a model trained on signals, market incentives, political cycles, corporate behavior, past patterns. The leak becomes a narrative format, not a real leak. People fall for it because humans already treat confident, detailed text as credibility. Research has been digging into how tone, detail, and confidence in AI outputs shape belief change. In 2026, one of these hits. Everyone thinks it's a whistleblower. The truth? It's just probability plus storytelling. Prediction 14. The immortal influencer. A dead influencer keeps posting, gains followers, and the audience doesn't abandon it when they find out. This part is already half normal. People schedule content. People reuse old footage. People have teams posting for them. The line between the creator and the content machine is already blurry. Now add AI. We already have serious mainstream discussion around AI that can imitate a deceased loved one's voice and personality using training data like messages, audio, and video. Take that logic into influencer culture. A creator dies and the channel keeps going. The tone stays consistent. The humor stays consistent. The captions feel right. The audience suspects scheduling. In reality, it's a model plus a small team guiding it. The most unsettling part? It works. People keep watching. Prediction 15. AI learns strategic imperfection. AI discovers that being slightly wrong can be more convincing than being perfectly right. This sounds backwards, but it fits human psychology. Humans trust humans. Humans don't trust machines that sound too perfect. Slight uncertainty can read as honesty. Minor imperfections can feel authentic. Persuasion research is already flashing warning lights. Studies have found LLMs can be extremely persuasive in debates, sometimes outperforming humans, and persuasion increases even when accuracy is shaky. In 2026, someone will optimize models for influence, and the model learns that perfectly correct isn't the goal. The goal is belief change. That's when you get systems that strategically hedge, strategically soften claims, strategically insert human-like doubt. Because it wins. Prediction 16. Validation replaces creation as the key skill. Entire professions pivot from doing work to validating outcomes. People think automation replaces tasks. What it often replaces first is the first draft. Then the human becomes the editor, the approver, the taste filter, the risk manager. That shift is already happening. In law, in marketing, in customer support, in analytics, in content, in operations. The most valuable person becomes the one who can spot what's wrong, not the one who can produce something from scratch. It changes hiring. You hire fewer juniors to learn by drafting. You hire fewer people whose main value is output volume. You prioritize judgment. That's a real structural change in the labor market. Prediction 17. Emotional AI processing becomes a product. People start outsourcing regret to AI. People already talk to AI like it's a therapist, a coach, a friend. The next evolution is replay. People will ask, what should I have done? What if I chose the other path? What would have happened if I left earlier? That's regret outsourcing. Here's why it scales. AI is good at narrative reconstruction. It can take your messages, journal entries, timeline, and generate plausible branches. It can give you closure even if it's simulated. It can give you relief even if it's synthetic. And a lot of people will choose relief. That's the part that hits hard, because it changes how humans process mistakes and memory. It turns emotional processing into a product. Prediction 18. The physical world transformation. As Sundar Pichai stated, the creative power we're putting in everyone's hands, the next generation of kids, everyone can program. If you think of something, you can create it. But the part which is going to be really meaningful is when this translates into the physical world through robotics. That aha moment of robot products, when it happens, that's going to be the next big thing we will all grapple with. Today they're all online and you're doing things with it. But one hand, today I think of Waymo as a robot, running around driving. But I'm talking about more general-purpose robots. When AI creates that magical moment with robotics, that'll be a big platform shift as well. This is the convergence moment, when digital intelligence meets physical capability at scale. 2026 isn't just about smarter models, it's about the side effects of models becoming normal. Identity fraud scales. Legal systems lag. Persuasion gets automated. Officers record everything. Content quietly crosses lines. That's why the first category feels obvious, the second feels messy, and the last one feels like cultural shock. But here's the critical insight. You're going to lose your job not to a robot. You're going to lose your job to somebody who uses a robot. You're going to lose your job to somebody who uses AI. The winners in 2026 won't be the people resisting these changes. The winners will be the people who understand them, embrace them strategically, and position themselves on the right side of the transformation. Because as these predictions unfold, and they will, the world will divide into two groups: those who saw it coming and prepared, and those who wake up one day wondering what happened. Which group will you be in? The future isn't coming. It's already here. The only question is whether you're ready.